I'm going to show you today, I have a lot of slides to cover, so I'm going to go through it. I hope in the end to do, if I can do a live demo, we'll do that as well, if I have time left, and if we can squeeze it in, we will also do a Q&A session. So the first slide that I wanted to show you is really that 2017, System Platform 2017 is really a release that we stretched out over 3 releases. So we started in 2014 and 2014 R2, and you probably a degree of yourself, to a degree of yourself, you're using either 2014 R2, or maybe even still 2012 R2 or 2012. But these were some of the new features we introduced in that time frame that led up to this release. A lot of the things that we did in that time frame, we had to do to make this release possible. So one thing was that we wanted to make it easier for our customers to maintain their standards. So that's when we did things like element styles, template locking, and format styles. More out-of-the-box content, so you don't have to build it. So that was basically the SA symbol library that we introduced in 2014 and finished in 2014 R2, together with alarm symbols and SA trends. And of course, your IT organizations around lifecycle compliance, doing things like virtualization support, online upgrades, stuff like that. And then, of course, the alarm standards and engineering efficiency. So those buckets, they came back in 2017. In 2017, a lot of the focus was around engineering efficiency. So how can we enable you, empower you to build things faster and with less effort? So one part of that is the object wizards, which we're going to talk about today, but also things like resolution independence and basically form factor independence. Out-of-the-box content, this was a very important part about this particular release, where we not only want to provide just some symbols, but also the actual assets that control your system. So we have a complete asset library that you can access, give you navigation out of the box. We'll talk a little bit how that works. Dashboards, faceplates, the lifecycle IT compliance comes back here. And simplification, so the object wizard assembler and what you see, what you get editors. Of course, technology updates, things like multi-touch, multi-threaded, faster performance, and native multi-screen applications. All this leads to a platform really that is based on the, if you look at our OI server side, where we, if you have seen the last 2 years, we have increased our drivers that we are writing. The one that is coming out shortly is a HTTPS protocol web service. The other one is already, we have MQTT and other and SNMP. So a lot of protocols to communicate with all kinds of devices, and that all enables to bring in to make this an IT/OT convergence platform. Where you can bring apps in, third-party apps or our apps that basically can render that data, show you that data from very different devices than traditionally what we used to connect to, like a PLC, right? So easier to use. We wanted to make it easier to use, easier to build standards, more secure, and faster than anybody in the market. So I wanted to show you here on the next slide is very importantly all the new technology. Let me see if that comes. There it is. All the new technology. We had one rule, and it had to be complementary to what we were offering today. So when you upgrade to System Platform 2017, and you have your InTouch for System Platform, you can redeploy your InTouch for System Platform, and you're back up and running. There is no change required. There is no a path required for you to go to the new system. That works transparently. Besides that, there is a whole bunch of new features that you could use based on the content that you have. So your content is ArchestrA Graphics. So when you have ArchestrA Graphics, you can go and move to using InTouch OMI applications. Out of a licensing perspective, you can seamlessly deploy InTouch for System Platform to a node, and parallel to that have a InTouch OMI application deployed on that same node, and that only counts for one license. So using the new technology does not require any additional licensing. Plus, it's completely transparent with what you have. So you can choose just to continue on your existing platform and use InTouch for System Platform, and InTouch itself, what I'm not talking about today, but InTouch itself has a bunch of new features as well that are very interesting. And then InTouch OMI is the new visualization platform which we offer that you can just deploy in conjunction with InTouch for System Platform. So what does that new visualization give you? So that new visualization gives you, it's taking a sec here for that slide to render. Preserve your investment into InTouch. That was our main thing. Reduce your engineering cost and lifecycle cost. Give you better security out of a client perspective. Improve scalability, so having more sessions running on a terminal server, for example, and we'll explain why. And integration of apps, so the IT-OT convergence. It has a seamless path forward when you're using today InTouch Modern and InTouch for System Platform. What is then core to all the technology that we are presenting? The core to all the technology is really the ArchestrA graphics. So that will work in flagship InTouch and InTouch for System Platform. That will work in the graphic editor, of course. There is a new application that you will find in our system, which is a mapping application. That mapping application that uses all kinds of GIS providers or mapping providers renders the graphics on top of that in HTML5. Those graphics are also traditional ArchestrA graphics. So those ArchestrA graphics get rendered on a HTML5 map. Then by the end of this year, we'll also have a fully we're working on a fully web-based solution where HTML graphics or ArchestrA graphics appear in HTML5. That's later this year. That's not part of this release. Today we're introducing the HTML5 technology as part of a mapping application that is part of InTouch OMI. So looking at that, what we have built is really a thick client solution in orange, that orange block here, and it's on top of Application Server System Platform 2017 object-based. Going forward, looking towards the future, we are going to have two rendering technologies. One where users expect every control to work, all their .NET controls to work, bringing screens up within a second and have these very, very fast response times, be on a 4K monitor or in a control room with 10 monitors, it doesn't matter. And then the purple one is the occasional user that logs in that just wants to see a KPI or operate a faceplate over HTML5. That technology is under development as well, which we have the first pieces for in this release. And we started introducing these technologies based on System Platform 2017. However, System Platform 2017 is object-based. At some point, these two new rendering technologies will also move over to InTouch HMI tag-based. So InTouch will get this new rendering as well at some point down the line. So it's the visualization technologies that we have developed here are not just for System Platform. They will roll over to InTouch at some point. As a customer, what you will be interested in is like, well, how much is this going to save me? So setting up multi-monitors is really a breeze with this system. You can do it very easily and make it very functional within minutes instead of spending weeks on an application to develop a multi-monitor application. Scripting for navigation, 0%. One of the rules here was that we have a model within System Platform. We wanted to use that model for navigation. So that way our customers then don't have to write any scripting or any instructions to get content onto their screens. And then 100% coverage of any screen type. I'm going to show you real quick, getting through this slide. Design once, many times on any form factor, auto-build your navigation. And then use of modern interactions like multi-touch. with 0% scripting. So what did we do out of a UI perspective? Within the industry, we looked at UI UX standards, and we basically, if you look at the UI UX standards from Google, they're open source, anybody can use them. It's called material design. So we used the material design and put about 20% of Snyder requirements on top of that, one-aware requirements, and came up with a UI UX that is very contemporary, and we call that our Skyline UI. So these UI principles and guidelines of how to build a interface for process systems, or any system in this case. This particular UI UX we have published on a website. So if you go to skyline-ui.com, you will find a website where this is all documented in our SIs. We expect our SIs to use these basically these guidelines to build their applications. So everything looks uniform and conform a UI UX guideline. So the new editors that we created, you will see in the IDE, were built using those standards. And then we went a step further. We also said, like, it would be nice if we also had an interface like that for our runtime users, our operators, because in the end, the people that interact with our systems, that develop a system, is only a small percentage of the life cycle that a system is in engineering mode that it gets built. It's only maybe 5% of its lifetime. The other 95% operators are working with our system. So we thought it was very imperative that we provided a UI UX for the operator that was based on best practice. And that best practice is the material design. In accordance also, we work with a design company in France, which was called Atoma, where we did design studies around operators and how to optimize their screens. So that particular design in runtime, you basically get out of the box within our framework. So that persona that works most with our systems and operates our systems is Joe. And Joe is typically interested in how fast can I get to something and how fast can I discover context between various operations and how can I be better in operating my facility. So typically all of us, most of us, design systems that Joe works with. So we wanted the interface for Joe to be based on Skyline UI UX, and it has to be best in breed out of a UI UX perspective to increase his operational effectiveness. Because one thing we didn't want to do is that leave Joe out, because he's the most important person within the system. He's the daily user of the system, and he will benefit from the fact that he can get to information quicker and faster. And that's what a lot of the UI that we designed around runtime was designed around. So some of that as an example here in this overview. You can see a facility that has information, and then we did things like sliding panes, so we can bring in menus, function bars, log in, things like SCADA playback, showing less or more details. So those are sliding panes, which is a feature of this in Touch OMI product. The other part that we did is for showing more details. When you start drilling down through your hierarchy, showing more details in the form of trend charts, trend cards, and on the right side, contextual information depending to what you are looking at. So if you're looking at a tank, you get information about the tank. If you click on a valve, you get in that same location the faceplates. So we try to avoid completely in this system pop-ups. So there are no pop-ups in the system, and then everything appears in tabs on the right side where you can interact with the system. So it's a very intuitive interface that we designed with the operators in mind. And which is based on situational awareness. The other part that was baked into this design is that it has to be designed in a way so it shows properly on a desktop, on a mobile, on a tablet, and in either modes like landscape or portrait. And the way we do that is we don't change our content, as you can see in this screenshot. The content doesn't change. What changes is your layout. If you go to any modern website and you take your browser and you scrunch your browser down, you will see that that particular website changes its layout based on the form factor that it has available. Typically, websites have 3 to 4 layouts that they use to accommodate you being able to see it on any device. This same principle we implemented for designing a system. You build layouts and your content is abstracted from your form factor. So that enables us to build things like showing in Touch OMI clients on any device. Another important aspect was multi-screen setups and having touch first. So this setup, for example, is a touch first interface where there is a large 27-inch touchscreen in front of the operator where you can operate the system with. So you can show it on a single desktop UI or on a tablet, and the tablet is going to come up in a second. There, and then or on the phone. So a phone sometimes it doesn't make. I'm showing it here the process graphic on the phone. Typically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to show a process graphic on the phone because the form factor doesn't lean itself for that. So what works well on a phone are things like a list view, like on the left side, showing some KPIs, showing the alarm statuses, showing a map with the location of the asset, or showing a faceplate to operate the asset, showing the full fidelity graphics that are available on the non-mobile devices you can, but then you would have to use things like pan and zoom and stuff like that to clutter and declutter to show that display. But the content, the big message around all the content here that you just saw is we wanted to keep the content the same and change the form factor by using different layouts. So this shows a quick overview of all the new editors that you will find in the IDE. And basically there are 3. So one is a screen profile editor, what basically tells you where do I want to display on, what type of canvas do I have. The second one would be a layout editor, is how to display it. And then the third one is like the equivalent of window maker. We call it the ViewApp editor, what to display. So within Touch OMI there are 3 new editors that you will find in the product. So the first one is the screen profiles, and screen profiles can be created, can have up to 50 monitors within one application. So if you have hardware that can have 50 monitors on it, you can configure it with the system with 50 monitors. Typically, I would say practical is 4 to 5 is probably practical to use, or 2 or 3. Using 6 or more, you lose your mouse and things like that. So, but on systems with 3 or 4 monitors, it's very manageable. So then you can have, of course, once you have set up your screen profiles, that basically determines of where you're going to display it on. You're going to go to the layout editor. And the layout editor, you can create panes. And you can see this just like a website where you create a frame, where you create frames, and within those frames you show content. That this is basically working the same way. So these are keyholes into your content. What we also allow you to do is to key these panes with certain content types. So if you click on an asset, and that asset has 3 or 4 pieces of content on it, those pieces of content can be tagged like, oh, one is my trend, one is my alarm, one is my overview. And if the panes are then keyed in the same way, the system automatically knows to take those graphics and to stick them into the proper panes. And then you can go a step further and have multi-monitor applications where these panes reside on multiple monitors. The content that you visualize can be symbols, which are ArchestrA graphics, or apps. It can also be other layouts. So that's more of an inception type of thing you could call layouts within layouts. So initially when you start building the system then, when you have your layout set up, and the layout takes some planning like you would do on a website. You plan where you want to have your title bar, where you want to have your static content, where you want to have your dynamic content, what content goes in what pane. So it does require some planning of how you want your application to look. But basically once you have that set up, the application builds itself. Because you build a model in the IDE, a plant model. Within the plant model you can associate or place graphics on the assets, so you can put symbols on the objects. We also added the fact that you can link symbols to the graphic toolbox. So at that point then, when that content is tagged with a content type and you click on that asset in runtime, it knows where to put the graphics. So there's absolutely no scripting required and say, I want to show this on this monitor and this one in that pane and that one in that one. No, that's all automatically done for you because of that metadata present on the graphics. So panes within a layout consume one or more content types. And that's really the key that drives our automatic navigation. And we call that function, we call that the autofill function. So the autofill function, you can say how you want it to behave, but it actually looks at your assets and then autofills all the panes. Now what if you don't want to use the ArchestrA model? So you can build your own model within that system as well. So you can build your own hierarchy and you can associate your assets with that hierarchy or your graphics with the hierarchy, and then the hierarchy just brings up the graphics. But by default, you can just use the model that you currently have within System Platform. Also, when we did our new editors, we created some new toolboxes. So those new toolboxes you will see appearing in the graphic editor. They allow you from properties or assets to drag content onto your canvas directly without any point or click. So before it was point and click browse. Now you can also type in the search bar, you can type anything in. So if you're in your assets and you're looking for a valve, you type in valve and all the valves show up in the system. That makes putting graphics together far more easy and also a lot faster. So this is an example of some of the new features within the graphic editor, and you can look later when you have the deck at details that are provided in these screenshots. So as last, once you have then your screen profiles defined and your layouts, there's really a ViewApp editor that brings all this together. So it takes all the definitions of screen profile editor, of symbols and of layouts and of your model, and creates a view application. This view application looks very much like your InTouch ViewApp. It's the same definition. It's just a new icon in the IDE, and you can deploy that to a view engine just like you could an InTouch application. And you can deploy them side by side and then run your InTouch OMI next to your InTouch for System Platform application using the same content. The other part is multi-touch. So it was very important for us to support all the multi-touch features. So we have one-finger operations. They're typically element operations. Element operations like starting or stopping a pump, or swiping through navigation, going up, going down, going left, going right. Then the finger pane operations, which is more like I want to pan and zoom type of operations. Those are two-finger. And then three-finger operations are more application-based. So when I swipe anywhere on the screen down, I bring in the menu from the top. If I swipe anything left, I swipe in the menu from the left. So these swipes make menus appear, are system type of interactions, application type of interactions. So that's how we broke up our gestures. The finger applications, that's one. And then, of course, we have, in the next screen, I'm going to talk about a little bit more around the apps. So the ViewApp runtime. So what does that look like? I'll show you. So the ViewApp and runtime, what we wanted to do is to get performance today. A lot of HMI vendors use things like graphic caching. That's how they become more performant. So the initial load is slow, and then the second load is fast. What we did basically is that our system doesn't cache. The InTouch OMI doesn't cache any graphics, so its footprint stays very, very small. We run the complete application in like 200 megabytes, and that stays like that during the whole operation of that particular view client. So that allows you to put a lot more sessions onto a terminal server. We also support up to 4K, 50 screens per app, and we can render 100,000 elements per second. So when you call up any graphic, pretty much that is now in your application, we pretty much can call every graphic up within 1 second. So it's no caching used. We can use GPU rendering when it's available. If it's not available, we use the CPU. You can run about 6 to 10 times more sessions on the terminal server. You have the ability to run as many instances as you want on one box. And what does that mean? Is that, let's say if I connect a workstation, and on that workstation I have 3 monitors. So if I want to have an instance of a ViewApp in each monitor, I can run those 3 instances on that local workstation. I can deploy a ViewApp to it, run those 3 instances. That all counts for 1 license. So if we don't care if you have 3 monitors on it or 6 monitors on it, and when you want to run your app 6 times, that all counts as 1 license. The ability to test multi-monitor without having them. The system can run multiple monitors within 1 frame. So it can run it within 1 screen, because the SIs often don't have the same footprint as that you have in the plant, but you still want to test your multi-monitor setups. So you can do that without having them. Instant SCADA playback from the historian. So at any given time, any graphic can be disconnected and you turn on historical playback. And at that point, you can play back your history from your historian, just like you would. And there is no scripting required. There's no special things required. All you have to do is turn that switch on, choose the time frame you want, and choose a playback speed, and it play. And then it also auto-builds your navigation. So the footprint reduction and scalability in System Platform 2017 was very important to us because we know that we can scale out and that we can fan out. You can have 2 to 400 nodes, and you can have 0 to 1 million I/O on that, and pulling data every second. So I'm not talking about SCADA systems that get data once in the 30 seconds. I'm talking about systems that get data every second and store data every second. So here, for example, we can do unlimited with multi-galaxy. Of course, there's no limit to, in multi-galaxy how much I/O you can have. But we in this project, we basically compressed it down to 1 box. Like we said, how much can we do actually in 1 box? And this box we will offer as well in our offering. So you can buy a rack server from us that does this. And that particular rack server can do 0 to 100,000 I/O. With 1 second scan time, 20,000 tags historized, 10,000 alarms with 3 or 4% changing, and 20 clients connected, including the historian, everything included in 1 box. So that simplifies the architecture for 80% of our installations. If you want a redundant one, you just buy a second box. So that really simplifies our approach to. Of course, you can do distributed architecture for SCADA, but for a regular plant where you would want to have all of your systems 1 Galaxy in 1 box and 1 OS to maintain, that basically simplifies the whole life cycle and approach. So that's that particular. So that reduces your footprint, that reduces the amount of hardware you have to have, that reduces the amount of cost associated with putting a system in, if you can run it on 1 box, which you can now. So the Touch OMI Apps is really a story to, one thing is we looked at the average customer, and most of the operators working with our systems, they use 15 to 16 tools to complete their daily task. And all these tools are disjointed. They're not. You can integrate them today with InTouch and with other solutions, but there's heavy scripting required to do so. So one thing we wanted to do is have these things out of the box be integrated with each other, and we are providing a bunch of things for that, toolkits. So one thing here is that we are defining this as a new space, which is basically the Touch OMI name comes actually from Operations Management Interface. And what we want to do there is that we really want to differentiate the fact that it's beyond SCADA, right? It's beyond HMI. These are systems where there is a high interaction of different applications with the system without you having to program that interaction. So one thing here, this all is driven by something that we call context. So there is a context engine in the system that basically can pass context on between symbols, apps, between screens. It's all one namespace. So you can actually say, oh, if I have web content, if I have a web portal that I bring up, I don't want to have to sign into that web portal. It should do single sign-on. We have a single sign-on servers. If I want to do things like SCADA playback, I shouldn't have to script that. The system should understand if I switch that on that it needs to go to the historian to get those tags. There is no need for you to program that or script that. If I have, for example, a map with locations of my assets, then automatically those graphics, if I click on those graphics, it should go to the HMI view of those graphics, and you shouldn't have to script that. So all that is built in to the system, and it's using this thing called context, and this context gets passed between applications. And we do all the hard work for you in the integration on the apps, but you just plug and play the apps in, and it's basically plug and play. You plug them in. If you take the inside app and you plug it in, it knows automatically what's trended on the objects. So if you click on an asset and it has trended data, it shows up on the trend. You don't have to program trend pens or stuff like that. So initially we have a small amount of apps. We're working now the next 6 months building the more apps out. So you'll see here a list of applications. And these ArchestrA applications, they will also come from our ecosystem. So you will see applications appearing from Win911 and other partners that we have that you can drop in here. And then for you, it's more like it becomes an application really, and not a configuration effort. So it's more like a use scenario than anything else. So these are all the apps we targeted during the initial release, and you will see some of them in the product. There will be more. So the app server and SA object standards is the last thing I want to talk about. So that's apps. Apps is really key to Touch OMI. The other part that's really key is that, as you can see, in different aspects, System Platform is changing. We're not forcing you to change. You can stay where you are today. But you can take these new technologies and say, yes, I do want to kind of refactor my ViewApp to take advantage of the new View technology. And then you can say, yes, I do want to take advantage of the new apps that are there because I want to have an easy integration. I want to have things like camera integration or map integration, or I want to have trend information readily available to me without me having to program it. So you can use those if you want to. Then the third aspect of System Platform is really changing the way you build standards. So changing the way you build standards, there are two engineers that work with System Platform. Or actually there are three. So the first one is the standard builder. The standard builder can be the guy like a corporate guy that provides the standards to his organization. The other one works at an SI, builds standards, or it's us, and we provide standards out of the box. Then there is the application assembler, the guy that says, I never want to build a standard in my life. I just want to instantiate a valve, or I want to instantiate 300 valves. I don't care of how I need to build them. I just want to assemble them, and I assemble graphics. The third one is more of a technician type of user, engineer, that is in the plant, and that currently today he basically maintains the PLCs and things like that, and he touches the HMI. What he does is occasionally he will add a valve or he will add a temperature transmitter. So what we claim in here is that with what we're doing with the object wizards, we're reducing the engineering by 60%. We have 39 objects that cover about 80% of your automation needs. Plus we have a complete situation awareness library. I'm going to show you. And these three guys that I talked about that we modeled the system after are basically Richard, Evan, and Ray. And if you look at Richard, he is the standard developer that I talked about. So he knows how to develop objects and things like that. And then you have Evan, he's an application assembler. And then you have Ray, he's the technician. For Ray, we basically introduced a library, an object library that reflects things like an agitator, a compressor, a flow PID, a two-way valve, where a application assembler understands, like, oh, I know what that is, I can configure that. So you have symbol wizards with object wizards and an application framework that you can use out of the box. We will also give you the faceplates out of the box that interact with these symbols. So if you click on the pump, you can turn the pump on and off. Or if you click on a PID loop, you will see the PID loop in the faceplate. So these faceplates come out of the box. So the 2017 object library is really equipment assets, instrument assets, and valve assets. These three groups you can then use, and it gives you DCS functionality out of the box for any PLC without the cost or complexity of a DCS. So it basically gives you the complete interactions with all these different symbols out of the box. As last is we have visibility settings on the SA graphics. If you use these templates, the visibility settings are then automatically integrated, so you can turn things on and off. So what I would like to do is Q&A for the presentation that you just saw.
So one of the questions that we had was on the maps. Will maps work with Google Maps?
Yes, right now we have a couple of them. We have I think there's Bing in there, there's Esri in there. There are 3 or 4 map providers. I don't think Google is one of them, but Bing is one of them. Yes.
Okay. The next question is, when will A4SP be ready to upgrade to this version?
So if you are on 2014 R2 SP1, you can upgrade to this version. So here, how much is upgrade from 2014 to 2017? If you're on customer first, it's no charge.
Next question at the top, is there a path to bring existing screens to InTouch OMI, or does it require redesigning from scratch?
It does not require redesigning from scratch. OMI is complementary technology, and it's using your ArchestrA graphics. So the existing screens in InTouch today, they can be converted to ArchestrA graphics if you have not done so. You can right-click on them as of 2014 release, and you say convert to ArchestrA graphic. Any InTouch graphic can be converted to ArchestrA graphics. So at that point, once it's converted, it's completely transparent into InTouch OMI. If you don't want to use layouts and screen profiles, you could just build one big screen with one big layout and show your InTouch application in there, if that's the case. Is there a GR Access toolkit being released for 2017? No, the GR Access toolkit stayed unchanged. That's still the same toolkit as that we released in 2014 R2. Is this an in-place upgrade? Will it require a complete shutdown? So no. So if you're on 2014 R2 SP1, then you actually can do an in-place upgrade. So a node-by-node upgrade, we call that. And we also introduced a feature in 2014 R2 where you don't have to shut down your system if you have redundant nodes. So you can actually do an in-place upgrade, yes. But you have to be on the latest version. GR Access Toolkit 2017 version will be released. Will the DLL continue be working? Yes. The GR Access will be working with this particular 2017 version. Can object color be changed on faceplate? Yes. So all these colors that you saw, everything we built uses element styles. So if you go to the definition of element styles and say my active and my passive color is red and green, then it will change for every instance of that graphic that has been used. So if you have 600 valves, it will change for those 600 valves. There's only one place where you have to change that, and that's on the element styles. Is the licensing still backwards compatible? I.e., will 2017 licensing work on 2014 RP-SP1 machines? The answer here is no. So one thing I didn't talk about is that our licensing system completely has changed. So we do not use dongles anymore. They're gone. We use activation. We use a complete electronic licensing mechanism, and we use a thing called the licensing server. So on the GR, you can have a licensing server. All the licensing is centralized, and you load up your licenses on that license server. And then if you have a distributed system, all you have to do is start up your applications, and they will grab their licenses from the licensing server. So it's very easy. It's not anymore the system. However, it's not backwards compatible. So 2017 licensing is not backwards compatible with 2014. What is the earliest version of System Platform can I upgrade from? You can upgrade from any version that is in support from 2012, 2012 R2, 2014, 2014 R2. You can always bring in your CAP files from those releases. However, a in-place online upgrade is only supported on 2014 R2 SP1. 2014 R2 to 2017 is a direct upgrade, or do I need to upgrade to 2014 first? 2014 R2 is a direct upgrade. Can you share more about the menu navigation options for the operator? So the menu navigation options are really that are built in are you can have global context. I want to see all my alarms, all my trends, all my map assets, and then based on the assets where you are, you can then get you also have contextual menus. These contextual menus say, from this particular assets, I want to look at its camera, I want to look at its location, I want to look at its trends. So there's contextual access to information based on navigation, and then there is non-contextual access, which means everything. So those two navigation methods, they're built into the demo. It was mentioned that multi-monitors was a new feature. Is this only for OMI? Yes. So this easy support for multi-monitors for now is only in Touch OMI. Wondering when the licensing changes with online licensing will get rolled out. The licensing changes are part of WSP 2017. If you use a multi-monitor system and one goes out and you have a pane assigned to that monitor, and what happens? So basically what happens if you unplug a screen, that particular screen is going to go to the next available screen. So it's not going to be closed or anything like that. It will reassign to a available screen. At that point, they can be on top of each other, but then you can use the Windows Snap feature, which is Windows arrow key left or right, to snap them once left and right. So until you get your auto monitor back up and running. It will still behave as a multi-monitor system, even on a single monitor. Can you upgrade directly to 2017 from 2012 without going to 2014? You can bring in a CAP file. So out of that aspect, you can bring in a CAP file or a package file from 2012 and upgrade to 2014, yes. Is it possible to upgrade from 2012 version to 2017? It would be by CAP files or package files, and depends on what version it is. So CAP files for 2012 are 2, package files only for 2012. Is 2017 included in a training for AVEVA System Platform? Yes, there will be a new training program that is based on 2017. The training department has been developing that training now for a while, so that should go online shortly. How do deployments work with OMI ViewApps? So deployments with OMI ViewApps are a little bit different. InTouch System Platform deploys to a platform, and then it deploys to a view engine. So a platform is a PC, right, with a bootstrap on it. So you deploy your application to it. You do the same thing with Touch OMI. It works the same thing. You deploy it. However, we did implement a new method which we call Delta deployment. So if you look at InTouch will deploy that application every time you make a change, that complete application, which can be large. What we have done is we only do the deltas. So whatever has changed, we redeploy the second time. So over a SCADA bandwidth in a SCADA scenario, that will take less time. How will this be integrate with a Skelta BPM workflow? So yes, I am working with the product manager of Skelta, and when they have a release, I expect them to drop an application that you can drop into InTouch OMI that uses context. Right. How will be the licensing tag-based, device-based? So one thing, couple of licensing changes we did completely deprecate the requirement to buy platform licenses for the system. So as of today, in 2017, you do not require any more platform licenses. So that gets rid of that extra cost. What is required is a IO based licensing. So we actually IO based and client based licensing. So the actual clients that you have, just like you have for InTouch for System Platform, the licensing itself stays completely the same as what it was for now. So multi-instances are supported on Touch OMI. You can have as many instances as the system can handle out of a memory and CPU perspective. It's not supported on InTouch. InTouch doesn't have that capability today. When it gets the new visualization, when it gets the new runtime at some point, it will have that capability. So definitely going forward, it's in the cards for InTouch to have that. But today, InTouch doesn't use the new visualization. With the old licensing model, we would just call up our distributor to get an updated license file with a new product entry. What is the process for acquiring a license under the new model with the activation system? Same way, and in this case, actually, the license will be emailed to you. As far as I know what's going on in the system, as far as I understand it. Is that correct, Marianne?
Yes.
Will they be emailed? Yeah, they will be emailed, right? Yeah. So there's no more little DVDs being shipped around, basically. Can you expand on the difference between OMI and Access Anywhere? Okay, so Touch OMI is really our thick client rendering technology that is designed to take graphics and render them on your desktop or using remote desktop on a mobile device, right? So that's where this technology Touch OMI will work. In addition, not in this release, we will also have InTouch Access Anywhere support. So that basically takes InTouch OMI and puts it on top of puts it on a web portal, just like InTouch Access Anywhere for InTouch. So what we are doing now is basically this will support InTouch Access Anywhere at some point. So it's going to be InTouch OMI Access Anywhere, and the demo that we're releasing next week for you to see online and to play with the system will be based on InTouch Access Anywhere, and it will run a InTouch OMI system. How will it work on remote sessions? Will it recognize different monitors? So yes, good question, because most 80% of the systems out there are remote desktop. Yeah, it will fully work. So if you connect and say, in your remote desktop connection, connect to all monitors, and you connect to 4 monitors, the system will, and you start your ViewApp and it has 4 monitors in its screen profile, it will put a layout in every single one of these monitors, yes. It will just work completely transparent on remote desktop sessions to local sessions on a workstation. That's completely transparent. Is the new server-based licensing dependent on being connected to the internet? This is a rumor, so please confirm. So there are 2 things here. When you have a licensing server in the plant, and let's say the plant doesn't have an internet connection, there are 2 components to the new licensing. One is the licensing server, and one is the licensing activation server. You can take our software DVD WSP 2017 and install a licensing activation server behind the firewall in your office. Then when you activate the licenses using the internet or a phone, you can do it by phone, you can get these activation codes and go to the disconnected system and load these licenses. So if there's no connectivity, there's always a way, one or the other way, either by phone or through a system that is connected to the internet, to get an activated license. Does InTouch IO still exist in OMI, or is it all IO through System Platform? Okay, so there are 2 things here. InTouch is still offered as a product. There is still an InTouch 2017 product that is tag-based that uses IO. So if you want, you can still buy InTouch, and you can buy InTouch going forward many years to come. We have no intent of replacing InTouch with System Platform. System Platform is a different animal. It's object-based. It's not tag-based. So when you do System Platform, you basically have the IO through System Platform, and you use a product called InTouch for System Platform. InTouch for System Platform never had an IO license. It doesn't have an IO license because the IO comes through System Platform. That's correct. But if you don't want that, you can still buy regular InTouch with tags. How will I/O counts be enforced in 2017? Will you enforce it within the IDE or at the OI server? We are going to today. The only restrictions, there are a couple of restrictions. One is that you have to connect with the right def count to the right runtime count. So that's one of them. The other one is the enforcement will follow later. I don't think we're going to bluntly enforce I/O. We'll introduce that in update 1. So right now we're not doing that, but we will enforce it later down the line. Will Access Anywhere 2017 work with older clients like 2014 R2 SP1 programming? No. No, you have to upgrade to InTouch 2017 if you want to use Access Anywhere 2017. If we currently have 2014 R2 SP1 with Access Anywhere, do I have to wait for the next release to upgrade? No, you can go to 2017 because InTouch is part of this release. InTouch for System Platform is part of WSP 2017, and InTouch Access Anywhere 2017 is part of that release as well. So you can completely upgrade and use your InTouch Access Anywhere functionality that you have today with InTouch.